Okay, so let's think about ordering a product from this online retail website. I think I'm going to buy a bike. So let's choose bike as our product and let's go to the checkout. Nothing happens because, of course, we haven't yet implemented the event handler for the Go to Checkout button. So that's going to be our next task. Let's close Internet Explorer. And now we have quite a few files open here now in Visual Studio. So we want to find the order page.aspx and we want to add an event handler for the Go to Checkout button. So select that button and then come down to the property window, click the event button and handle the click event. Okay, so at this point, I'll just give myself a bit more space here. At this point, we need to implement some logic to redirect ourselves to the summary page. The summary page will be the last page in our application. So let's first of all declare ourselves a helper variable called URL. And the URL for the page we want to go to is going to be a tilde and a slash. Summary page.aspx. Now, I want the summary page to display a message such as, "Thank you, Andy, your bike will be delivered as soon as possible." So I need to pass two bits of information into the summary page. I need to pass in the username, and I need to pass in the product that the user's chosen. Now, let's think about the username first. How can we retrieve the username from our current page? Well, if you think about it, that's what we did during page load. During page load, we had exactly the same issue. We wanted to find out what the username was, so we used this bit of syntax here to retrieve the username from the query string. Now that information is still available to us in our checkout button click method. So let's copy that to the clipboard and then come down to the checkout button underscore click, and at the beginning of that method, let's paste the statement in. So that's retrieved the name of the user, Andy, for example. The second bit of information that we need to retrieve is the product that the user selected on this page. Well, that's easy. That's the text box. So we just need to get the value from the product text box. So I declare myself a helper variable called product, and we'll just retrieve the value from the product text box. So we have the username and the product. We just need to append those bits of information now onto the end of our query string. So first of all, we'll append the username. So the username will be equal to, at this point, I'll slot in the username. So we're building this string up bit by bit. Now, when you have a query string with multiple parameters, you use an ampersand to separate the parameters, like so. So the URL will be summary page.aspx, and then a question mark, which indicates the start of the query string, and then username equals Andy, and then an ampersand to say, well, now we're going on to the second query string variable, which is going to be called product. And the value of that one is going to be close the string and add the product name that we've just retrieved from the text box. Okay, so summary page.aspx, username equals Andy, and then a separator, and then product equals bike. So that's the URL that we want to redirect to. And remember, the way that you achieve that is by using the response object and the redirect method, and you give it the URL that you want to go to. So that's going to take us to the summary page, and it's going to pass the username and the product into that page so that it can display the information to the user. So let's just give that a quick test. Control F5, enter my name, Andy, the product. I really do want to buy a bike, so let's put in bike and go to checkout. Good, so it's taken us to summary page.aspx, and it's made available both the username, query string variable, and the name of the product that I want to buy, bike. So all we need to do now is to implement some code in the summary page.aspx page to actually retrieve this information and display it in a label. Okay, so let's do that. Let's go into Solution Explorer and select summary page.aspx. Let's double click it. Okay, so it's fairly empty at the moment. In the design view, let's add a label. I'll put it there. And let's just make the label a little bit nicer to look at. So we'll change the ID of the label to be summary label. And we'll set on the font we'll set the font to be bold, and we'll set the font name to be Arial, and we'll set the font size to be 12 points. And I'll just delete the text that appears in there at the moment, because we're going to overwrite that with some programmatic information shortly. So there's my label. In order to initialize it, I'm going to write some code in the page load event. So right click and view code. In the page load method, remember now we're talking about the summary page. So in here, in the page load method, if it's not a postback, then we need to retrieve the username from the query string and the product. So we've done this already, so this should be quite easy. String username equals request dot query string, and let's pick out the username query string variable first of all, and secondly another statement very similar to pick up the product. There we are. Okay, so we've retrieved the information from the query string. All we need to do now is to set the label, and we're done. So the label was called summary label .text, and let's display a message. Well, actually, what I'm going to do here, just to make life a bit easier, I'm going to use string.format, and the message will be, hey, thanks, and then the name of the person, and then the name of the product is on its way, a few exclamation marks. So this shop gives us good service. So the first bit of information was the username, and the second bit of information for the string is the product. Those are the local variables inside the method. Close off the if statement, and I think we're done. So let's run the application. At this point, the application is more or less complete, hopefully. So name, Andy. Log in. Product, a bike please. Let's go to the checkout. And it says, hey, thanks Andy, your bike is on its way. Great, that's marvellous.